you have to pay a premium to enjoy the void space that comes along with this penthouse unit. This entire project.
Something that's very interesting is that on this particular step, which is step number 1, driveway drop-off point, you have a gym plus. So we're gonna head in. Let's go.
Mission control, we have liftoff.
Alright, good day everybody. Welcome to another episode of our new launch review. Today we're going to bring you to another district and we're going to come into this place where there's a lot of talks in town recently, and we are going to D26, which is Lentor. Together joining me in the studio today is Zoe, which is a new face in our new launch banter. So maybe Zoe, you want to give a quick introduction of yourself?
Hey, hi everyone. So Zoe here. So yeah, very excited to share with you more about Lentoria. So my first time here, definitely very nervous. So yeah, so give me some breathing space as well.
Yeah, and of course, the other person, of course, is not a very unfamiliar face. You have seen him so many times. Yu Rong, our senior investment consultant.
Hello.
Right, so come in. Right, so let's go right into this project. We are going to talk about Lentoria today, and this project is one of the latest project that's going to launch this year. Of course, we have also another one that's upcoming, which we're going to cover in another episode. But right now, Lentoria is joining in with a couple of the 3 other launches so far in the Lentor area, and of course, a lot of people will be very, very interested to know what is in for them in this particular project. And today we're going to talk a lot in terms of the project details, the floor plans, the pricing as well, as also our thoughts on this particular project. So maybe to kickstart, Zoe, you want to share with the audience more about this project?
Okay, so this project basically is made up of 3 blocks. So we have 2 blocks of about 17 stories and then 1 of 8 stories. So the TOP is likely to take place in 2027, which is 3 years from now. And it was, the land size itself is about 10,819 square meters with a plot ratio of 2.8. So the total units we are looking at is about 267.
So Lentoria is a very interesting project. Do you all know why?
Why?
Because this is the out of the 5 plots of project that is have launched or is launching, like for Lentor mentioned, is next week, right? This is the only project that in the Lentor area so far is only one name only. The rest is always like 2 names or 3 names, like Lentoria. The rest is like Lentor Mansion, Lentor Hill Residences, Lentor Modern.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's like the
Okay,
Easter
but
egg.
of course, like this will not impact in terms of the investment analysis.
Yeah.
Just want to point out the uniqueness of the name.
That's true. Right. So anyway, talking about the land size, right? Like the name is short, it's only one syllable, it's only one word.
Yeah.
This is also the smallest land size in the whole entire Lentor area. So of course we know that the whole entire Lentor plot, if I were to just jump into this particular slide itself, this slide, yeah. So Lentoria, you can see that among all the various new launches right there, or all the developments right there, Lentoria is occupying the smallest land. And of course, this is part of the government land sale. So it was actually awarded, I think it was awarded in
September 2022.
2022, yep, that's right. So being the smallest land plot, it was awarded to TID Residential. So we're going to talk a little bit about the developers later on. But in terms of the guide pricing right now, of course, the selling price has already been announced in a way. But based on the calculation, we are not too far off from this selling price. Over the launch weekend, they sold about 50 units, which is just over the most recent weekend. We're also going to look at the numbers as well to make sense of these numbers and why is the performance this way. But maybe for a quick overview for our audience, who is the developers behind Lentoria? So of course we have TID together with Hong Leong's and Misu Fudosan, right? So they are a joint venture together. But I mean, of course, people who know in this industry, they know that actually Lentoria is also part of the whole entire GoCo project, right? So in fact, GoCo owns, I would say, out of the whole 5 plots, they owns 4 plots already that is launched. Except for Hilong Green, which is not under the GoCo's portfolio. But otherwise, you can see that GoCo actually has a lot of attention that's being placed in the whole entire Lentor area. They probably will also want to replicate what they have done for the Bugis area. They want to bring the whole entire GoCo kind of signature to the Lentor area to redevelop that place into something that is very livable. So this is just a quick overview of the projects that has been done by the 3 various developers just to make sense of them. So now let's jump right into the location. Maybe Yu Rong, you want to share in terms of the whole entire Lentoria,
Okay.
where we are.
So in terms of location-wise, maybe we can we are walking distance to like Lentor MRT station, which already functioning up to Gardens by the Bay. This is a Thomson East Coast line. At the second, probably by the end of this year, the eastern side of the Thomson East Coast line should be fully functional. That will actually bring a lot more connectivity to the eastern side of Singapore. Lentor Modern, which actually has an integrated development, will be the nearer shopping mall that will offer to Lentoria. All right, we're also in close proximity to Hillock Park, and I think the number one thing why people are considering Lentoria is because all units are within 1 kilometer of our CHRJ St. Nicholas,
Which is here. We've
this is
done this.
top 5 most popular primary school
Yeah, CHRJ
among
is right here.
every single year.
Lentoria is here.
Yes. Also have shelter walkway to the MRT station.
Mm.
And so these are we are, of course, in this Lentor area is within the private enclave of this Ang Mo Kio planning area. So we have a lot of landed properties as well as, like the some resale properties along on the other stretch of like nearer to the Yio Chu Kang side.
Yeah, I think Lentor by itself used to be a very sleepy area. I mean, sleepy town by itself. So before the whole entire development of the Thomson East Coast Line, the Lentor MRT station, I believe the area is mainly predominantly full of all the landed enclave. So I think Lentor by itself is also sitting on the outskirts of Ang Mo Kio. So in a way, if let's say you want to go for amenities, actually you're not short of amenities. You are just minutes away from Ang Mo Kio area. You have your wet market right there. You have your food center. You are just short drive away from Ang Mo Kio hub. If you want to go down to Thomson area, it's also possible as well. So in a way, I would say that the location-wise is growing and is definitely maturing. So this is the CHIJ 1 kilometers map. This is the URA master plan of the whole entire land plot in Lentor area. So of course, yeah.
Basically, I think like because like Lentor, right, it will sort of like form its own new mini town within the Ang Mo Kio planning area because everything is relatively new over here. The entire vibe will be very different. Newer buildings, look nicer, MRT station, new shopping mall. So it's very self-functioning. And of course, I think that like on the longer term, for people who are probably residing in the Ang Mo Kio area or like who are staying in the northern area, this will be a strong consideration for people who want to relocate. If they want to move towards the city center from the northern side, or like they want to, like switch within the Ang Mo Kio area, because in Ang Mo Kio itself, you do not have a lot of condo choices, especially if you are looking for newer ones. Yio Chu Kang ones will actually be relatively old already. So I think this will be a key consideration area for future buyers.
Right. So this is actually the map itself of the various projects. So of course, this is all done by Guoco, right? So of course, up and coming will be Lentor Mansion. Today we are talking about Lentoria. So this site is also owned by Guoco as well. This site is owned by Guoco. This one has not been announced yet. So ultimately, this will be the near future of what you're going to expect in the whole entire Lentor area.
Any project that has a Lentor as the first name is owned by Guoco lah. So I'm sure the next one should be Lentor
something lah, right? Yeah, so if you look at the current supply in the whole entire area, I think that's also something to take note of as well. So this is just to give a quick recap of the current supplies right now that we're going to expect that's going to come up in the whole entire Lentor area. So you can see that Lentor Modern is the first project that was launched in 2022, followed by Lentor Hills, Hillock, that were launched last year. And then right now we are talking about Lentoria plus also Lentor Mansion that's coming up next. So in terms of the total number of supply, you do see that there's a lot of traction, when it was first launched in 2022. So like, Lentor Modern was launched at 84% on the launch weekend, and subsequently right now, they are pretty much 2% more to 100% sold out. Lentor Hills, pretty much, I would say close to full sold out as well, so remaining about 128 units. Hillock Green is the one that is not within 1 kilometer from CHIJ, but however, it is also very close to Lentor Modern, so it's one of the few projects that is very close proximity to Lentor MRT station. Right now, there's about 295 units left. Lentoria, we're going to have about 267 units, sold about 50 units, there about 52. So right now, we have about 250 units left. So of course, adding towards Lentor Mansion is going to come up with 533 units. We probably are seeing quite a lot of supply right there in the Lentor area.
So definitely one of the questions that I think in the head of potential buyers will be thinking, hey, does this show that the buyer demand has been exhausted already, because the percentage keep dropping after every single
I think it's more like a
launch.
buyer fatigue lah. There's not targeting towards a Lentor area, but more towards a whole entire new launch landscape in Singapore.
Of course, that is definitely one, and I think we covered the Lentor review a couple of times already. I think just to have a very quick recap is, over here, you want to know that today when you're buying into any projects, right? When you want to resell next time, is there a specific identity that next time your future buyers will want to actually buy into this project? If there is an identity, it will make the resale pricing and the resale volume very buoyant. So that's what we will cover about later. But over here is you can see that Lentor Modern, of course, first to launch integrated, so it has that kind of like first mover. Of course, you know, at the most convenience. Lentor Hill Residences was the first one that was launched that has within 1 kilometer of St. Nicholas. So that's important. Hillock Green is not within 1 kilometer, so it has a little bit less kind of like a special identity, but I think it is targeted more towards, you know, like the younger crowd. They have like co-working space and all that. So they have that little bit of differentiation, right? I think for Lentoria wise, one of it is that it is the smallest plot. The identity will still be that like in the future, people who want to consider 1 kilometer will potentially still look for Lentoria itself. But we also want to compare other things in terms of like facilities, land size, proximity to MRT station, whether is it shelter walkway, not shelter walkway, where is it close to the park, is there like how quiet, you know, like is the facing, all these things will be the small little things that your buyers will be looking out for. Because when you're buying a new launch, there are a lot of things that can be easily overlooked. Because you are looking at a show flat, you know, they are presenting the best thing itself. The show flat is not in its actual location. You don't experience how you are traveling, entering into a gut, going to a unit, that kind of experience.
Right.
So sometimes you won't notice more little things like, oh, actually, from the side gate to the block, is there any shelter or not? Or like, you know, like, how is the facilities actually like? You know, things like that. So I think all the, whether the windows are 3/4 windows or like full length windows. So all these are the small little things that can come into play.
Sure. So we will do that later on in the site plan as well. So we'll go pretty much deep down into the location, also the site plan analysis. But right now we also have this thing to just have a quick look at the mix sensing of the numbers lah. So we did a land price comparison. So this is basically a land price that was being bidded lah. So Lentoria, you can see that right now, it actually got in at quite a high price. I think largely because land price has been increasing. Lentor Mansion, despite the fact that it goes in at a lower price, but because Lentor Mansion will be the first project that will feature the URA harmonization, so do expect that the pricing will not be that close to this land pricing.
So Lentor Mansion, based on indicative pricing, the per square feet starting from about 2180 per square feet, which is generally higher than the typical starting prices. Even though Lentoria mentioned that they're going to start 19 something X per square feet lah. But if you see actually based on the current remaining units, now price point wise, they are also at about like $2,200 PSF. So I think number one is for Lentoria wise, would you want to go into a project with a similar pricing as its counterparts when your land size and your facilities and the number of units are actually smaller? That's the question.
Right. So that's something that we will talk about later on, and then you can actually have a think through in a way. Right. So of course the next slide that we have is also the more like the project attributes that we want to compare, the kind of like features that we have. So of course, being a smaller land size, you definitely don't get the tennis court that you see in Lentoria. So you have no tennis court in Hillock Green as well. But otherwise, the rest of the other facilities is pretty much standard in a way.
Of course, when we say full facilities, what we mean is actually like a pool, tennis court, function room, and gym. Of course, like bigger projects, like for example, like Lentor Hill, Lentor Mansion, they will have more interesting facilities. Right, for example, like a camping area for Lentor Mansion, you have like for example,
childcare center.
Childcare and Lentor Hill Residences, you actually have, you know, like on like one of the decking, you can actually connect to almost all the blocks. So you have a 400-meter kind of like sky jogging track. So these are the small little X factor that will, you know, like swing buyers the resale market. So generally wise, I think if you were to look at other things, like if today you can see that why there are childcare center in like some of these developments, right? Especially when they are oriented towards like within 1 kilometer of St. Nicholas, because if you're going to have a buyer that's going to send their kids, they will probably want to buy something when they are already, you know, way before the primary school kind of age, right?
Right?
So hence having a childcare within the development is also another bonus point. Okay, I would say that the other thing to look at is whether we are sheltered walkway to the MRT station. So for Lentor Hill Residences, okay, Lentor Modern is confirmed because it is integrated. Lentor Hill and Lentor Mansion, you actually have covered walkway all the way to your unit. So it means if you have wear an umbrella, you are not going to get a single drop of rain on you. For Lentoria, yes, there's shelter walkway, but it will end at the boundary line.
So which is
So
the
it's
side
not
map here.
yeah, so it's not connected
So it ends here.
towards Tower 36.
Yeah.
Maybe the developer might might want to add on later on. Yeah, if not, you can have like a umbrella shuttle service over there.
Yeah, so anyway, this is the site plan of Lentoria. So it's made out of 3 blocks, as what Zoe has mentioned earlier on. You have 32, you have 36, and 38. So this is the shelter walkway, as what Yu Rong has mentioned. So this shelter walkway will link you all the way to Lentor MRT station. There will be a side gate here that you can actually enter into the development. But right now, based on the plan, we don't see any form of shelter. So there's still like a kind of like a rush for you to run right into the development. Otherwise, I would say that this development is pretty much interesting in a sense whereby, even given the size, I think recently I've reviewed one project that's like Hill Haven. I believe the land size is bigger, but it features a 35 meters lap pool. But for this Lentoria, it actually features a 50 meters lap pool. So you can see that they make quite good use of the space in this whole entire site plan. So I would say that, in a way, there's some maze right here. I believe 14 is a dog run patch, which means, in other words, like a big open field for your pets to run around. But otherwise, this is also basement parking. Entrance, general, all the blocks are facing towards northwest and southeast orientation. So those northwest orientation will be all facing right here and here. Whereas southeast will be all that's facing towards the Yio Chu Kang Road. So in a way, you basically, just now we were having a chat before that, it's like a lesser of the two evils in a way. Whether do you want to have a northwest facing or you want to have the road facing. And do take note that 32 will also be the lower block. So this will stop at level 8. Whereas these two will stop at level 17. Yeah, so that's something for you to take note of.
So something that in terms of facility that are more interesting, the maze garden, that is unique, which is number 8. Right, just now you mentioned the maze garden can, if your kids are naughty, you can just put them there and then they can get lost in the maze for a while, tire them out. But generally wise, this is the first project that actually has a main road facing unit, which is the Yio Chu Kang Road. So I think if you are looking for units that are facing, they are generally your 2-bed, 2-baths, as well as you have one compact 3-bedder kind of layout and one 3-bedder premium kind of layout. Then I think like this facing, it will be better if you consider higher floor to get away from the noise. Of course, that also depends on the price spread as well.
Correct.
So that's one thing, because in all the Lentor area, right, usually if they are facing outside, it is at least just a internal road facing, meaning it is just that filter road to get into your project. So in terms of noise level, it will be almost nothing.
Negligible in a way.
Quite negligible. Yeah, so this will be one of the things to consider. But of course, Lentoria also have a few key things that other projects around in this locale doesn't have.
We'll talk about that later on. Right. So next one will also be like the Sky Park, right?
Yeah, which is on level 14.
So this is level 14, Sky Park. So basically allows people to have a view, and this is basically on the 2 blocks that's on the higher blocks. So it just basically allows you to have a much better sensing of the whole entire area. So in fact, we have a view, so-called like a stipulated view. And I think one of the key things to take note of is that for Lentoria, like what Yu Rong has mentioned, right? One of the unique things is that the top floor units, you basically get a very high ceiling height. Yeah, and we're going to share that later on as well. Just to do some renderings of what it will looks like. So one of the entrance is also definitely something that's quite nicely designed. So this is the entrance. This is with 50 meters lap pool. This will be the so-called like the little wedding pool. And this will be what you see from the Sky Garden as well. So just a couple of renderings for you to have a sensing of how it actually looks like. So looking at the units distribution, so this is where it gets interesting. So this is the part where we have to see like what are the kind of like mix that we have. So you can clearly see that over here, the darker colors, this will actually be the 4-bedder. So you have one stack of 4 stacks of 4-bedders. Mainly 2-bedders, they're all fronting towards the Yio Chu Kang Road.
That's right.
Right, we're going to have a couple of, we'll do a breakdown in terms of the units mix for you. So over here, you can clearly see that, very interestingly for Lentoria, more than 50% of the units are made up of smaller unit size. Right, so this is something for you to take note of as well. So if you are like going for the family, you are looking for 3-bedders or 4-bedders, you technically get lesser count right there. But although you get more kind of like units mix in terms of the kind of like breakdown of sizes.
So in terms of parking space, right, that's why it is 85% allocation. So because I think there are quite a bit of 1 and 2-bedders. So I think if you are owning something like a bigger layout, if you have a second car, I think it will be easier to get parking space. This is also the only project in the Lentor area so far that actually feature more than 50% unit mix for the smaller bedroom types of 1 and 2 bedrooms. Generally wise, one of the key factors in terms of resale market is most of the time, if let's say, you know, like two pieces of projects side by side, if let's say attributes are very, very similar, there's a likelihood that the one that has more bigger bedroom types actually has better traction in terms of pricing elevation.
Which is what we call the volume effect.
Volume effect is one thing. Second thing is also because when you are tailored towards bigger units, right, it is very likely that you will put in more interesting facilities. And sometimes all these interesting facilities, right, it's very funny, even though under our mode analysis we don't have like a facility kind of thing, right? Sometimes they are the different push factor of like, okay, why this project will sell faster, or why this project, you know, like has a little bit of like, you know, like more price elevation.
Right.
Actually, to add on, one of my questions that I have is, since Lentoria is within 1 kilometer of CHIJ, why didn't the developer actually build larger floor plates? I think that's one of my key questions. Instead, they actually pump in more for, let's say, 1 and 2 beders. Is it to cover costs, to break even? Because I would believe of that plot itself, if Lentoria 100% is within 1 kilometer, then I would therefore build bigger units. Yeah,
because the smaller units are the ones that can give you more margin.
Exactly,
so you need to average out
In a way.
and all that.
Yeah. But of course, you do get study for the 2 beders. So the 2 beders, you have one stack that is basically the 2 bed plus study, which we will also go into details because if you realize the numbers here, it's just very interesting because 2 beders with no study is the same size as 2 beders with study. So there is some place where they actually are able to carve out a study room while still maintaining the same unit size. So in this instance, it maybe does make sense to go for a study, for example, you know, since the unit size is the same, PSL wise will also be pretty much similar. But one thing to do take note of is that the maintenance fee, these are basically estimates. It's basically by share value and plus multiplied by the amount of share that you get. Otherwise, this is basically the whole entire units mix. We also have a little breakdown of the 1 bedder and 2 bedder. Maybe Zoe, you want to bring us through what is this all about?
So basically, all the 1 bedders can be found in the lower level where the block is made out of 8 floors, whereas the 2 bedders can be found mainly in block 36 and 38. They'll be the 17 stories sort of the blocks. So whereas the 3 and the 4 bedders, if we go to the next slide, would actually be spread.
Here.
Yeah, it will actually be spread across both towers lah. Yeah, so that is something to take note of as well.
Yeah, so as we always mention, right, the most expensive unit is usually being given the best placement. But very interestingly, of course, if you talk about quietness, then of course, in the middle of this project, this will definitely be the quietest because you are not facing towards the road. You are facing inner as well. You are facing towards the pool. So basically, this is the more of the premium stack, which is a 4-bedroom premium lah. So this is actually the most expensive unit in the whole entire development. This is just a normal 4-bedroom, and this is a 4-bedroom premium. But do take note as well, because this is a low floor, this is a low story block, so 8 stories. If you do want to get certain level of west sun, a shield from west sun, you have to get anything that's below 8th floor, because anything that's higher than 8th floor, you definitely will have a certain level of evening sun coming into your unit at a certain part of the years lah. Yeah.
I think the best facing in this project is the internal facing. Second one is the one that is facing towards Lentor Mansion,
which is these stacks.
4, 5, 6, 7.
Right.
And then the last one will be the Yio Chu Kang facing units.
Which is all these stacks over here.
Mainly the 2 bedders also.
Right. So of course, after the launch itself, there's also a couple of units left. So we want to take a look at the kind of units that's available right now. So 1 bedders right now have about 17 units. So in a way, every unit type, there's still options available. So we also have a little table to show the price range for the various kind of unit types. So if you're looking for a 3-bedroom right now, you know that the lowest entry price that you can get from Lentoria will be $1.858 million. For lowest entry price for 2 bedders is about 1.481. So with that, let's take a look at the various floor plans that's available. So the 1 bedder right now, there's 2 different types of stacks, so A1 and A2, and both of them are basically the same, just that A2 is of a mirror image of A1, and they are actually located, as what Zoe has mentioned, in the lower blocks. So you have A1 that's all facing towards Lentor Mansion, and A2 that's inner facing the swimming pool stack. So otherwise, in terms of the layout, I would say that this is pretty much a very standard kind of one-bedder layout today they can get. But do take note that it's not a Jack and Jill bathroom, meaning to say that from a master bedroom, in order to get into the master bath, you still got to exit the room to go into the bath. Yeah, so that's one of the key highlight. But otherwise, I would say that this is a very standard kind of layout that you can get from the one-bedder. So now coming to the two-bedders, you get 4 different kind of stacks. Of course, the fourth one will be the 4 plus study, as you can see over here. So this is a study room that is being designed, but although it has an additional study, but in terms of unit size, it's very much all the same as 732. Any insights on this, Yu Rong?
Okay, so of course, when I look at the floor plan, I like the 2 plus study in terms of layout the most lah. So of course, like that study area, of course, it's flexible. I can make it like a storage area as well. So that really is a form of differentiation when you are looking for like a 2-bedder. In terms of premium, because they are the same facing, same sizing, right? So the premium that was being loaded for the study is probably about 35K to 40,000 as compared to a non-study kind of layout. So from that angle, I think that can be still worth considering. Such that like the layout is more functional. But of course, like what you are exchanging is that like in terms of like your kitchen size is a little bit
Smaller
lesser lah.
Yeah.
Which I think is okay. So it's just probably 1.5 cabinets of width difference, but it actually carve out a space for me that I can have something that is more multifunctional.
Right.
Yeah, there's only 2 stacks of this 2 plus study layout.
Yeah, which is here.
Yeah.
B4S right here and right here.
Right. If I'm just buying a typical 2-bedder layout, I would probably be looking at the pool facing ones, even though they are 700 square feet. Based on looking at the layout, I don't see that there is too much of a difference between the 700 and 732 square feet. So I don't see that I'm sacrificing a lot of space. But I think like being a pool facing unit will help my exit to be easier.
But do you think the pool facing unit for a B1, despite the fact that it's a smaller size, would be actually more expensive than say a B2?
It's like quite a similar pricing.
Quite a similar pricing.
But of course, your per square feet will be higher for the pool facing unit.
Right, because
but I think for the attribute, I think it is.
It's much
okay
better in a sense lah. Right. Okay. Okay. So now let's take a look at the 3-bedder. So for the 3-bedder, of course, you have 4 layouts. That is, I would say the normal layout, and then of course you have the 2 3-bedder premium. So let's take a look at the normal 3-bedder, which we call that the 3-bedder compact in some sense. Something very interesting about these 3-bedders that I see in Lentoria is actually the positioning of the kitchen, so to speak. Yeah.
So we can share.
Zoe, you want to share about this?
So basically, I think when it comes to the 3-bedders, the interesting thing is the kitchen itself is actually open kitchen concept, which is very special because I think usually for 3-bedders, you would expect an enclosed kitchen lah. Yeah, and I think the second thing to take note of is also the I think for all the layouts itself, there are windows at the bathrooms. So I think this is a plus point because if we go back to the 1 and the 2-bedders, you realize that the 1 and 2-bedders, their toilets would not have that ventilation
Except
window.
B3.
Except for B3.
Yeah, B3 you have this bathroom here
correct.
because it's located at the corner lah.
Yeah, correct.
Stack 11 and stack 15.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think later we will also deep dive into that.
Yeah, the
as well.
2 center ones.
So let's take a look at the 3-bedder first.
Correct. So the 3-bedder itself. So I think if we were to take a look.
I think for Lentoria, right? I think for people who are looking to have a little bit more flexibility in terms of like layout wise, it will be something that stands out in the sense that most of the other projects is under PPVC. So meaning that the walls cannot be knocked down. So if you can see that those walls that are not shaded, you can see that, let's say for the 3-bedder, if you want to knock through from the living all the way until master, you can do that, which gives you the flexibility to combine bedrooms, expand your living area if that is what you want. Yeah, so I think like this is something that is unique.
Yeah.
We
for
did a little
Lentoria.
comparisons right here lah. So this is the one that we have done a little comparison.
Correct. So we were saying that the 3-bedders itself, the 3-bedder C1 has that potential to enclose, like if you would really like to. As compared to the rest, once you enter the home, you actually get both sides of the kitchen already. So that is something to consider.
Do you like this layout where you can come in and then you have like the double galley kitchen?
Okay, I would think that for me personally, for 1 and 2-bedder, I would expect that. I would expect that. For a 3-bedder, it comes as quite a surprise that actually the kitchen is not is an open kitchen concept. So yeah, it's quite interesting. I feel.
Technically speaking, you can still enclose it. So for example, right, you just have to do a glass sliding door, you know, like at the boundary. Yeah, so as in, so you just do a glass sliding door over here. How does this work?
Yeah, just press,
Okay, so you just do a glass sliding door over. I'm not pointing it exactly how I want it, like here, right, with a sliding door. Then it technically encloses the kitchen and the foyer area, so that could also potentially work, lah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, that means that to get into your house, you go through one door plus a second door.
Yeah, then you have privacy, ma.
Yeah, so I think that's something that is very interesting to take note of, lah. So this is only applies for the 3-bedroom compact. But of course, if you go into the 3-bedroom premium, this will be the one that if you really want an enclosable kitchen, you want a utility, you want a yacht, this is what you can get at 1119 square feet.
Yeah, and I think one thing to note for premium is that the living dining is landscape as compared to the one that's of a compact, the classic kind. Yeah. So also the premium has the additional study. Just right beside between the utility and the common bath. And I also like that actually both the toilets are also well ventilated, and the AC latch is actually away from the bedrooms. Yeah, which is also a plus point. If let's say, for example, you are worried about the sound or the heat that is generated.
So I think when AC latch you are not in front of the bedroom, I think like one of the main things is that you can still have full length windows. That's the main thing.
Yep.
And of course, just want to stress on the landscape living dining space, right? It's because out of the 3 premium in the Lentor area, aside from Hillock, there's one stack. Everything else, even for children premium, usually you're expecting a portrait living dining. So if you really love something that is like a landscape living dining, so that is what for Lentoria it stands out.
Yeah. This is what we call the portrait one, and this is the landscape one. Yeah.
The one other thing that you don't see from the floor plan is in terms of the yard space. So this is the only project where the yard space is actually the more traditional open yard. So
half height window.
yes,
half height,
so you actually
wall.
get natural ventilation to come into the yard space. So if you are somebody, you know, like have a lot of expensive clothes, you know, you can't use a dryer to dry your stuff. I think like having a ventilated yard, that will be a bonus, right? So you don't have to think of like, maybe I need a hanging system that's quite close to the kitchen area, or I need to use the balcony space. So that is another plus point. Finishing wise, there's also some difference. It's the only one that gives a quartz countertop for the kitchen cabinetry. I mean, the kitchen countertop is quartz material. So that is a very good touch as well. I think the layout is very efficient for the premium lah, with that study space.
Yeah, I think I'll say that if you are family owners who are used to, you want an enclosed kitchen, then naturally, the premium unit will be the one that you should be looking at. And in fact, C5P will be one of the show flat unit that is being built up at the show flat itself.
Yeah. I think just to add, let's say for example, if you have a helper, they can actually use up the utility and the WC, let's say for example, as a living space. The study can be converted as a storage actually. So that gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah. So this is where the units are being laid out in a sense. So of course your more premium one, the more premium will be C5P and C6P. So these two are the ones that is actually the premium 3-bedder. So in fact, personally, if I were to choose and buy a premium, I will go for a 6-6P. Largely because, I mean, of course, the low floor is fine. I go for the higher floor if possible. And it's inner facing. I'm a distance away from the road, and I don't get the west sun at all.
So far, the C6P, nobody has bought yet. Because the quantum and the premium, in terms of the premium compared to the C5P, is quite a bit. So C5P, the low floors haven't sold yet, but the mid floors are all gone already. So right now, basically, if you go to the high floor C5P, is similar to, let's say, like one of the units at C6P. But I think for internal facing units, generally wise, like a level 3 to level 8 is quite nice, because you really get to enjoy the nice pool facing. Because you're interfacing, if you go too high, you actually don't get to see the pool. Your neighbors more than the pool.
Correct. So that's the thing about inner facing. So the last one that we're going to talk about will actually be the 4-bedder. So 4-bedders, you have 2 stacks of a normal 4-bedder, and of course the more expensive one will be the 4-bed premium. But what I personally like about the 4-bedder is that the fact that we have the junior master concept. So the junior master concept will allow you to actually have 3 bathrooms in a configuration than a normal kind of 4-bedders layout where all the bedrooms are all lined at one side of the house, and generally in those kind of layouts you do only get 2 bathrooms. So that's usually the kind of difference that you get. Of course, with the premium you get a study area right here, and also very interestingly, the 4-bedder actually comes with a portrait kind of layout for a living hall, and only the premium one that gets a wide angle layout.
Yeah, yeah.
So in terms of the orientation of where the units are being located, of course the 4-bedder premium, as what I mentioned earlier on, is located at the most inner part of the development, which allows you to actually enjoy the quietness, but of course do take note of the evening sun kind of orientation. And Zoe has done a little comparison for the 4-bedders, and this is what we have right here.
Yeah. So basically, one thing to note is the junior master. I find it quite interesting because once you enter, you actually have a junior master on the left. So some people can use it as a dual key sort of concept. But if let's say, for example, if it's not a dual key, if it's a family, I don't know about you guys, but would you find like once you enter, you have your own bedroom on the left, and then the kitchen is just opposite? It could be also a very interesting.
This is okay lah. As in, this is okay for multi-generation living. So like you stay with
Usually the parents will be like that.
but then okay.
This is like is like the HDB 3-gen kind of like layout lah. So you have your junior master on one side, and then the rest of the other.
Actually nowadays it's start to become more and more common. Like 4-bedder to have this kind of like one of the junior on one side. But I think I like that there is 3 bathroom and there is a WC. Because if you go to Lentor Mansion, there are 4-bedder, right? It's 4 bedrooms with 2 baths.
Yeah, that's the part where I just doesn't understand.
And it's also like you know, like this kind of like dumbbell kind of layout, right? So if you are staying at the 2 common rooms, you have to go all the way to the other side because you won't be using the master bath. Lentor Hill one there is very interesting. The Lentor Hills Residences 4-bedroom, right? It's actually 4-bedroom. All 4 bedrooms have ensuite.
Oh.
So that is a very interesting layout for like a 4-bedder. But I think what they stand over here is that like you still get like a form of like landscape living dining if it's a 4-bedder premium with the additional study corner on top of the utility space.
And of course, all the kitchens are enclosable, which is good for all the 4-bedders.
It should be for 4-bedders.
Yeah,
I will be very surprised if they do it the open concept style. Right, so coming to the last part of our discussion, we'll be looking at more like the pricing. So just a quick recap, in terms of the land price, we are estimating it to be around $2,001 plus PSF in some sense, because this is by a GLS. These are the available pricing right now. Just some of the pricing that's available, just to make sense of the numbers. So you can see that right now the lowest entry PSF for 2-bedder, 3-bedder is also around 1,009. Right, and then of course the 4-bedders is also about 2,001 thereabout. So this is basically the current price matrix that we have for the remaining units in Lentoria. This is the guide pricing for the 1-bedder.
Yep. So far, upon observing what's going on, I think you realize that the stack 5 and 6 are sold more quickly. Also because I think the price difference is the key lah. Yeah. Other than that, because both layouts are pretty the same, it's really just a facing.
I think it's basically by quantum lah.
Yeah.
Right.
Because 80k to 100k difference is quite a lot if you are talking about like a 1-bedder.
And especially for investment units lah.
But I think generally it's like 1 bedroom you buy new launch is dangerous.
Okay. 2-bedders right now.
Yeah. So you realize the ones that's very popular is actually stack 17. Which is actually facing the Yio Chu Kang Road.
Largely, I think it's quantum. Largely by quantum play lah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think like over here, I think the layout is effective for 2-bed, 2-bath. I think like in terms of like the price quantum right now, that you want to have a typical 2-bed, 2-bath, this is still have like good units that you can choose from at the moment.
But just now, you were mentioning we're having a chat, right? Today, if you want to go for 2-bed, 1-bath, upcoming Lentor.
If I want to go for a 2-bed, 1-bath, I will consider Lentor Mansion because the starting price for a 2-bed, 1-bath Lentor Mansion is about 1.18 million. But that's because it's a 500 plus kind of square feet. So can you imagine if today you enter like a 500 plus square feet 1-bedder at, let's say this project, and then you are paying the same content as a 2-bed, 1-bath, how are you going to exit next time? So like that is one of the key considerations.
Right. So this will be the 3-bedder pricing that we have right now. I think there's not much units. So the most popular units, as you can see, is basically a show flat unit lah. So I think probably people when they walked in, they can see the space, and that's the reason why that makes sense of the numbers because it's enclosed kitchen, yard, utility. Then naturally it gets the highest number that's being sold.
That's right.
So if you want like that kind of like high ceiling lifestyle living, so there are level 1 units and there are top floor units. They have actually high ceiling of 5.525 meters. And what is special is this is throughout the entire house. So your living area and all your bedrooms, you get this high ceiling. This is very, very, very,
Very
rare to come by.
In fact, none of the projects in Lentor area have this kind of
Yes.
experience.
Most of the time nowadays, the top floor units will have what we call like the void space at your living area, meaning that only the living dining area you get a high ceiling, but you are accounted for additional strata size kind of space.
Yeah.
But over here, there is no additional strata space that is being added on.
Right.
And I think like if you are somebody who enjoys this kind of like high ceiling in terms of interior layer, I think like that's where what Lentoria can offer you.
Which is this visual that you can see right here. So this is like the double volume ceiling height.
Yeah.
That you get on the top floor level that stretches all the way from your living all the way into your bedrooms.
Yeah, this is very stunning, I think, like for like penthouse.
Yeah.
You know, like to get
Five
a lot
point-
more light to come.
5.5.
5.5 meters is actually very high.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like almost like a landed kind of like
Yeah.
like the new
Yeah,
landed properties where
correct.
we do like that kind of like high ceiling,
Yes,
like mezzanine
yes.
floor in like your level 1 area.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then ground floor you have the same feeling. So it's as though like if you walk in, it's as though you are walking into like a new constructed kind of landed where you do a high ceiling
Right.
for your living dining.
So I think it's a nice touch by the developer for Lentoria.
Mm.
So the last one that we have will actually be the 4-bedder. So of course the 4-bedder, interestingly, every unit type, there's already at least one unit that's being sold already. The more premium one, there's actually 2 units sold lah. But in terms of price wise, there's quite a fair bit of difference in terms of the quantum as well as also the PSF. So from the more, basically they are all inner facing, but of course the difference will have pretty much close to about $200 per square foot. Quantum wise is about 100K difference lah.
I think the quantum is quite palatable in comparison because, for example, Lentor Hill now is about 2.7 upwards. Lentor Mansion is going to start from like a 2.635 kind of pricing for like the first level unit. So I think like overall, in terms of positioning of like the 4 bedrooms, the 4-bedroom classic actually have better positioning than 4-bedroom premium. As in like they have a more central kind of like pool facing kind of area. So you can see the 4-bedroom premium. One of the reasons probably the PSF is lesser is because in terms of like your vantage point is that you basically like, I think if you are low floor, then you will see cars that is coming in from the entrance while they are going down to the basement parking lah. So I think like maybe somewhere that is like slightly higher floor, like like 6th, 7th floor onwards, probably in terms of like the vantage
Will be
point
better
will look
in
a
a
bit
way.
nicer. And also because the clubhouse is right in the center, so if you are on level 2, level 3, you will be seeing the gym people when they're exercising, they will be looking directly to your position. Yeah.
Maybe it helps by the level 1 having the double volume lah. It helps to push up a little
Definitely,
bit lah.
definitely.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I think the 4-bedder premium high floor will definitely be quite stunning, I think, the views.
Yeah, because
right
you have a
in
good
front,
setback,
unblocked.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can
But
see towards Lentor Mansion pool.
Yeah, very likely.
Yes.
That's true.
This was the transactions right now in the various projects right there. So you can see that in terms of the guide pricing, we are pretty close, I would say, to the rest of the other pricings.
But I think also because Lentor Modern and Lentor Hills, they have larger square plates. That's why I think it pushed up the quantum.
So which actually brings us to the remaining available units right now. So Yu Rong has actually tabulated this in terms of the different type of bedroom types that you can actually buy right there in Lentor area.
Of course, this is only accurate at the point of the current recording,
Yeah,
so I
of
don't know
course.
when the audience is going to see this. But I think generally wise is Lentoria. What are some of the unit types that like, if you are looking for certain unit type that you can come and consider Lentoria?
So actually, if you look at 4-bedder, right now today you want to go for the lowest quantum 4-bedder, you can actually go for Hillock Green in a way, based on quantum lah. Right. But otherwise, 2-bed 1 bath, 2-bed 2 bath. So of course 2-bed 1 bath will be actually be more palatable in a sense. This is where you mentioned about earlier on that today if I was just gonna pay slightly lower, 300K lower, I can just get a 2-bed 1 bath in Lentor, for example Lentor Mansion. Right. That makes it a bit more attractive for me to enter.
But I guess it's also back to the 1 kilometer within the CHIJ.
Of course,
Because
of
I
course.
think Hillock Green, yes, you get a lower quantum, but I don't think Hillock Green is
No,
inside the
it's
1
not.
kilometer. Yeah. I guess that's why it might be factored into the PSF as well. Yeah.
But otherwise, I would say that because I think the good thing is that Lentoria together with Lentor Hill, Lentor Modern, they are all basically belongs to the same developer, GoCo. So in a way, they somehow control the pricing. For the whole entire area, they will not like lower the pricing too much just to compensate or just to move the units, because it will then compromise their current listings that they currently have for Lentor Hill Residences and Lentor Modern. So in a way, you will expect a pretty much controlled pricing, even down to Lentor Mansion. I believe they will also want to control the pricing for their various type of unit types.
The plus point is that GoColand is like almost like the unofficial master developer of Lentor area. So what it brings about is that in terms of architecture design, you can see from the first building until the third building now, you can see that in terms of like the architecture design, each is very, very different. So they offer a certain form of
uniqueness.
choice, uniqueness, to your buyers. And in terms of I would say that in terms of the kind of bedroom layout wise, this is also unique in its own sense as well. So I think that helps to spread out to have a form of okay, this project will attract a certain type of buyer pool, this project will attract another type of buyer pool. So that helps to help to bring in
more buyers
So anyway, to summarize for Lentoria, so who should be buying Lentoria? So basically, because of the low density of the project, if you want the kind of privacy, you do not want to have too many people coming to the facilities area, but yet at the same time you also want it to be within a kilometers from CHIJ, for that very much guaranteed or safe exit plan in future. This will be the project that you want to consider. You do get shelter walkway to Lentor MRT station. You get a 3-bedder. Although the premium one will be the one that's more logical in the sense of a family because of the enclosed kitchen. But otherwise, this will be the unit. This will be the project for you to consider if you want the kind of privacy, low density, and at the same time, I think also the construction is also quite fast, right? Because it will be one of the first few.
TOP July 2027 officially. Of course, likely to be earlier.
Right.
So I think if you are trying to enroll your children
into CHIJ
next year. Right, this is the and you want to enroll next year and you want to buy a brand new property, this is probably the only one that can allow you to fit into that criteria, because as long as the building's vacant possession date is actually within 2 years of your child's enrollment, then you are eligible for that year's enrollment. So because of the construction stage, this will be 1+ point.
Yeah, correct. So those are the various attributes that you would think of. But of course, if let's say you want those kind of facilities, you want a big land, or you want very close towards MRT station, then of course they have other projects for you to think about. Like for example, your Lentor Hills Residences, or even the upcoming Lentor Mansion as well, because having the biggest land plot right there.
Because there are only 3 plots out of the 10 new land plots that are actually within 1 kilometers of St. Nicholas. So for example, this is 100%, everything is in Lentoria. Lentor Mansion, everything is in. Lentor Hill Residence, 2 blocks are confirmed in.
Right.
2 blocks is
ambiguous.
2 blocks is actually unofficially yes, and then 1 is likely not to not happening So I would say that if you are really looking for that 1 kilometer anchor, the future products that's going to come up in the Lentor area will not be able to offer you that.
So definitely the last one for here will not be within 1 kilometers. This one also will not be as well. So this is what Yu Rong has mentioned. Among all the land plots, these 3 are the ones that is guaranteed 1 kilometers from CHIJ St. Nick's, which is one of the key selling point of this project anyway.
That's right. And I think another selling point is because it's the last project that's without the harmonization. So it actually stands to benefit once Lentor Mansion is up. The PSF will definitely have a disparity in that sense. So already that is something to consider as well.
So anyway, any final words, Yu Rong? All good?
All good. I think if it's for school, you can consider Lentoria. If it's for investment, I think there might be other options that you can also think about.
Right. All right. So Zoe, anything from you?
No.
All right. So anyway, thanks a lot for following us through this Lentoria review. We hope you liked what we have shared. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of our new launch consultants. Their link is just right below. Till then, let's stay tuned for our next episode of our review. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.